Okay, so first off, we need to start with a business plan, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, point blank, period. So we have to understand exactly where we are going. So, what we're going to cover here is how do we create a great business plan on one page? Let's make it very simple. A lot of times we can get very complex with these things and make them 15 pages, 17 pages and be overwhelmed, but we don't need that. We just need clear direction on where we want to go. Okay. Now, once we have that one page business plan, we really need to kind of refine our why. And this isn't going to be a very big motivational speech type of course. It is very concrete and action oriented, but the why is so important. And we're going to cover exactly why that is. Now, from your why, we're going to create our goals, passive goals, active goals, which one really matters, right? We're going to rank them, prioritize them, the whole nine. Then we're going to do a deep reflection on where we are now. What type of resources do we have available? Once we identify those resources, now we know how to fill in the gaps of those resources. So let's get to it. The one page business plan. All right. So, first and foremost, guys, everything with real estate, everything that we're doing, this is a business, not a hobby. There's too many times that people will say, you know what, I want to do a side hustle of real estate. I want to kind of dabble in it. Well, guys, let's be very clear. The fact that you're going to have an enormous amount of money coming in, money coming out, one way or another, right? Even if you get a loan to purchase a $100,000 property and you only put 5,000 in, that 5,000 chunk may not be enormous to you, but there's still $100,000, $170,000, whatever that loan amount is, right? That's an enormous amount of money. You still have to go through the process of the loan application, right? Confirming that you will say that you'll pay back this loan. All of these different things. There's a lot of legal aspects to it, a lot of negotiations, a lot of parties involved. This is a business. This is not a hobby. So you have to understand that. That's the importance of having a business plan. Now you can sell your business. You can show, hey guys, you should trust me to execute exactly what I'm going to say because I've thought through this thoroughly. This is step one. Okay. Not anything else. Step one is designing your business plan. So, how do we create a business plan on one simple page? The answer is we're going to answer 5 questions. That's it. 5 questions. Okay. The first question is your vision. Your vision. What are you building? This is the grand idea. What are you trying to get to? Do you want a life of freedom where you have that 4-hour work week, right? That Tim Ferriss makes so popular? Okay, great. If that's the ultimate vision, that's 5 years down the road, that's 10 years down the road potentially. You now know, okay, well, systems are going to be a big piece to this because otherwise I'll be working in my business forever unless I create those systems. So, what's that vision? What's that ultimate vision that you want? And it can be anything. Okay. Now, once you understand the vision, that's question number one. Where do you see this whole thing going? Question number two is your mission. Why does your business exist? This is very different. The vision would be the overall outcome. The mission is why do you exist? Okay. So a vision can be of lifestyle of freedom. The mission could be to help as many servicemen and women as I can within the next 20 years, right? And you can go even more refined than that to help as many servicemen and women as I can purchase their first home, to help homeless individuals find a place to live. You see what I'm saying? So that could be the mission. So you have your overall vision. That question number one. Question number two is mission. Number three is going to be your objectives. What business results must you achieve to be successful? Okay. So let's say again, a vision, big thing, mission, help homeless veterans find places to live that are affordable and safe or free. So the objective would be build 300 homes for homeless veterans. Does that make sense? An objective is very clear. What is your definition of success? You have your mission, but what objectives must you hit along the way? Okay. And these can get extremely refined. And we're going to talk about SMART goals later on in the course. And I want you to get through the course, come back to this business plan and really reevaluate it. Make it very clear. After you answer number three, which is objectives, the next is your strategy. All right. What will make this business successful over time? Okay. What will make this business successful over time? Is it selling a certain number of homes? Is it marketing to a certain category, to a certain industry? Okay. Is it doing something different than the competition? For example, is it attacking pre foreclosures? Right. And seeing if you can do some negotiations there to help save some people from going into foreclosure, but still making some money, right? Is it the subject to approach where you're helping them potentially avoid bankruptcy, so forth and so on? What strategies are you going to take? Okay. And then after you answer number four, the strategies, the next one is the action plan. What are your business building projects and programs? The action plan, the day to day action oriented plan to help you achieve your objectives, right? So you'll take action plans towards your strategies to meet your overall objective that's helping you focus on your mission that will accomplish your vision. That simple. Now it's simple but not easy, okay? When you guys go through this and you actually sit down and you take the time to truly imagine and envision what that ultimate goal looks like, you should be able to write down a very clear objective and goal that is granular, specific, measurable. We're going to get into it. I'm not going to give away too much about the SMART goal, but understand that's the type of level of detail that your one-page business plan should have. That when you hand it off to anybody else, they know very clearly how your mission is, or I'm sorry, how your company and how your organization, how your business is being driven. Now we're on to the why, right? This is a big one. We talked about that business plan, but if you really think about it, that vision, the number one, the ultimate goal, that has to be tied to a why. Okay. It has to be. If you said, hey, I don't want to work anymore. I want to be on the beach for 2 hours a day. That's your why? No, it's got to be more than that, right? It's more than just a statement. Okay. The why is a true internal motivator. Remember that. It's an internal motivator. Your why is what keeps you waking up every single morning, rain, sleet, or shine, because we all know that this entrepreneur game is not easy. It's very tough. Okay. So let's really refine this. Now, how do we refine this? I like to call this going 3 to 7 levels deep or layers deep into your why. All right. Let's give you an example. Let's say, hey, you know what? The reason why I want to sit on a beach for 2 hours, 4 hours, 10 hours a day is because I don't want to work for my 9 to 5 anymore. No. That ain't it. It ain't because you don't want to work. Nobody wants to work a 9 to 5. I mean, most people are disgruntled. So why don't you want to work that 9 to 5? Right? Let's ask another why. Well, because every time I work that 9 to 5, man, I miss all of my child's, sporting events or their plays or recitals. I miss them all. I'm tired of that. Okay, understand. That makes sense. But what about missing those events in your children's lives really upsets you? Why is that important? Well, I know how it feels when my parents weren't around for my events growing up. I felt like they didn't care for me or they didn't love me, whatever. Okay, great. I understand that now. So why does that bother you? What about that feeling bothers you? Well, if I'm not there for my kids, then I will feel like a failure. And I want to give them the best opportunity at life and let them know that I love them dearly, right? That's a why. That's a why. Okay. Now that you know that why, I want you to write it down daily to constantly remind yourself why you're waking up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., to do this grind, to run this business before or after your W 2, right? To do what others are not going to do, even if this is your full time hustle, to beat your competition out by waking up early and staying up later by focusing on your why. It's extremely powerful. Again, guys, this is not a very fluffy course, right? But this is one of the most important aspects of anything that we do as entrepreneurs is understanding our internal motivation to another level that drives us to remain consistent. Okay? That's the key. Now we're going to get into how we tie this why to our actual goals. Okay, this is where it gets fun. All right, now that we understand our why, we have to figure out, in order for us to achieve that real objective, what do we need? All right. So if you say that you need freedom because your job is keeping you occupied, you travel too much, so forth and so on. The question is, do you need passive income or do you need active income? Right? Passive income is something that's designed to help you with your freedom. It gives you more time, right? Money while you sleep. Great. But what if your why was specifically to help your kids get through college? Or your why was specifically to pay off all of your parents' debt to show your gratitude, right? What if your why was to help build schools in a third world country? Well, then is that passive income or would that be more of active income? Right? So I like to think of passive income as your freedom, as your time. It buys time back. Active income as those big lump sum goals that require a lot of capital. Now, once we understand our why, we can truly understand which path we need to truly focus on. Okay. If it's not passive income, then maybe I shouldn't be trying to buy rentals. Maybe I should be focusing on wholesales and flips and things of that nature. Okay. Now, once we understand what our overall strategy kind of aligns best with our goal, now we have to find the time frame necessary to accomplish it. And don't underestimate this, right? I want you to be really thoughtful. A lot of times people will say, "Oh man, I want $20,000 a month within the next 10 years." So, because we have to tie back to the why, so I can spend more time with my kids. Okay, let's think about that. You want $20,000 a month. Great. Cool. No issues with that. You want it in 10 years. I think that is extremely doable. Extremely doable. That's great. But we have to tie it to our why. You just said so you can spend more time with your kids. Well, what if your kid is 8 years old now? If you've waited 10 years, your child is now 18. They're no longer a kid. So your goal, although it was reasonable, you did not consider the actual outcome of it. The purpose of it was for you to spend more time with your kids. So instead of making it a 10-year goal, you probably need to make it a 3-year goal. Okay. And that's fine. $20,000 a month in passive income in 3 years. Cool. I still approve it. Good. Let's go for it. But the point is, once we understand our exact goal and it's tied thoughtfully to our why, then we can backwards plan and we can figure out how much we need to do every day in order to achieve it. And that's where it gets fun. Now, once we understand how our goal is exactly tied to our why, now we got to make it a SMART goal, which we're going to cover next. All right, let's get to these SMART goals. Now, the SMART goal is simply an acronym, SMART. The purpose of the SMART goal is to maximize our clarity, right? If you guys remember the old Alice in Wonderland scene with the Cheshire Cat, I hope I said that right, Cheshire Cat, where he basically said, if you don't know where you want to go, any road will take you there. There's never been a truer statement said, right? We have to know where we want to go. Think about as we travel through life, just in general, a lot of us don't know what we want, right? That's a very common thing. But think about all of the, different jobs we take, different relationships we try, different whatever, until we ultimately get where we want to go, hopefully, right? But if we had clarity, right? Let's say ever since you were 3 years old, you knew you wanted to be a lawyer. You just knew it within your heart. We all know somebody like that, right? And so what did they do? They worked in school to get good grades to go to a certain school. And then they went through there and they studied law from day one. They graduated in 4 years and so forth and so on, right? You get the point. They were able to go from point A to point B in a much more linear fashion, in a quicker fashion, because they had very clear goals. That's the importance of this, right? So, what is a SMART goal? Let's get right into it. What do they stand for? It's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So let's break them down. What is specific? We need to know exactly what we're looking for, right? Let's just use football as an example. Let's say you want to win more games. Good, that's cool, right? But let's be more specific, right? Maybe it's I want to throw 10 touchdowns a game to help us lead by so on and so forth, right? We got to be specific. We have to know exactly what it is. Then the next one is measurable. All right. If we're looking at measurable, that's basically quantifiable. Okay. That basically is tied to a monetary amount, to a percentage, to a growth measure, something to say, hey, if I hit this mark, it's considered success. If I don't hit this mark, it's considered not necessarily failure, but I didn't quite achieve it. Right. And so let's just say, hey, I want to make more money this year. Okay. That's fine. That's specific ish. I want to make more money in a side hustle or in a second business. Okay, that's being a little bit more specific, but how much more money? I want to make $20,000 more in my side business this year. Okay, now it's measurable. So attainable, what's that? That's basically saying realistic or of this world. Is it something that we can truly acquire? All right. A lot of people may say something along the lines like, "I'd like to make $1 million tomorrow." Okay, let's be real. Maybe if you won the lottery or some other weird IPO happened and you just happen to have a lot of stock, it might work. But for the most part, that's not going to be something that's attainable, right? So we want to make sure that we have an attainable thing. Another good example would be, and this is kind of a very uh, over exaggerated example, but somebody may say, hey, I want to be bulletproof or I want to have superpowers. Okay, that's nowhere near as that attainable, right? All right. The next one would be relevant. This is extremely important. Relevancy has to do with your overall why, your overall objective. Now, how many of you know somebody in your life that says, hey, I'm trying out, for example, I'm trying out for the NFL, but I'm also going to open up this small salon over here that I've been thinking about doing, like a barber shop. I'm partnering up with a buddy of mine because, he wants to invest in this startup app. And, I'm also doing cooking on the side and I have a W-2 job in retail management, right? You see that none of those made sense. None of those connected with each other. None of those had the same target audience, same day to day activity, so forth and so on. Okay. My point with relevancy is understanding that, all right, if I'm looking for passive income and I'm focusing on a certain niche, the goal has to be relevant to that passive income goal. It cannot allow me to be distracted and focus on something else. And the last one is timely, basically time stamp. All right. If you said, hey, I want to make 20,000 more dollars in my second business, okay, that's cool. But by when? If it took you 20 years to do it, then if you didn't ever put a stamp, then you still accomplished it. It just took you 20 years. But if you said, hey, I want to accomplish $20,000 in my second business by the end of this year, great. But we step it up a little bit further. So here's an example. Here's an example of a SMART goal. I will generate $5,000. Now it's measurable and passive income. It's specific by 31 December 2026. Okay. There you go. Now it's very attainable. You have a time stamp to it. It's relevant to, in this scenario, your why of generating passive income. It's specific, right? And ultimately, if you really wanted to crank it down, you could say, I will generate $5,000 a month in passive income, so forth and so on, right? We can get more and more refined, but that's the art of creating a SMART goal. Now that we have the goal, we need to figure out our resources. All right. Now, why is this important? We have this beautiful goal, right? We know where we want to go, but we need to know how we need to get there. Now, the only way that we can really identify that is we need to determine what do we have with us? What are our resources? And then how do we need to be resourceful? Right. All right. So the way I like to look at this, it's called a resource triangle, where every apex is something different, essentially money, experience, and time. That's pretty much it. So when we look at where we are now, we want to know how much do we have of each. Okay. So when it comes to time, we need to think about hours per week that we can dedicate to our real estate journey, right? To our second business. All right. When we think about money, we're looking at our cash accounts. What do we have available maybe in our savings? What about our investment accounts, our retirement accounts, Roth IRAs, cash value life insurance policies, all that good stuff? Because we may be able to get creative with those to create passive income now instead of waiting to draw it out at 59 and a half, right? And there are ways to do that. Then we also want to look at discretionary income. All right, we looked at our reserves, we looked at our potential retirement funds that we can get creative, our retirement funds that we can get creative with. But after we paid off all of our necessary bills and food and gas and all that other good stuff, how much more do we have left? Why is that important? Well, what if, we'll get into bottlenecks and stuff here, but what if, we're able to pay for maybe a little bit more marketing to scale our business quicker? What if we're able to pay for a virtual assistant to help us out? What if we're able to pay for a bookkeeper, so on and so forth? So we want to know where our discretionary income is so we have a general idea. And the last one's going to be experience. How much experience we had? Let's be honest. Now, let's not just look at deals. Let's not just look at, I want to be a wholesaler, but I have done 0 deals. Write that down for sure. But also, how much have you been studying the art of wholesaling, right? How far are you away from being able to completely explain a certain specific niche or strategy to somebody else and just a nice, fluent conversation? Okay. Once you understand a strategy inside and out to that type of level, believe it or not, that's pretty good experience. Now, obviously, if you haven't done it, there's probably going to be several steps that you are not 100% clear about, but nonetheless, you should be able to articulate it when looking for business partners, interviewing property managers, attorneys, so forth and so on. So we want to write these down. And again, time is how many hours a week do you have to dedicate to it? Money, you want to separate it. How much do you have in reserves, cash accounts that can be deployed immediately towards investing? And again, be honest with yourself. It doesn't matter what it is, what you have right now in your cash accounts, what do you have in your investment accounts that can be creative down the road? And then how much discretionary income do you have to be allocated towards certain things? And then experience, we're going to put it all out there. Per deal, how many deals have you done? How many homes do you own in your personal name? How many homes have you bought and sold in your personal name? How many podcasts, how many years have you been studying? And what overall niche do you feel the most confident in? Okay, now we identified where we are. We got to identify the gap. And essentially, what is the gap? It's where in that resource triangle are you truly lacking? Okay. And once that gap is found, now you can figure out exactly how you need to fill it. So if time was the issue, then we can start to look at how do we leverage for more time. Okay. So if time is the issue and you find that you only have, let's just say, 4 hours a week to work on something, but it's taking you 2 hours a week just to pull data from, owners, and then taking that data and trying to figure out their contact information through skip tracing and things of that nature. It's taking you 2 hours. So you only have 2 hours a week to actually make phone calls. Well, a great way to leverage that time would just to be to simply purchase a list of owners with the names on there from another website like ListSource, Yellow Letter, blah, 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 right? So that's one opportunity. Let's just say money was the issue. Let's say you'd have no money in the bank, okay? And you might have a little bit of money in retirements. Well, let's just say you have maybe $50,000 in retirement accounts. Well, now we can look at, all right, well, I don't have much money here. I can either partner with somebody who has money. I can speak to maybe some self-directed or retirement account providers to see what that looks like and how I can then take that money and use it towards something else to help me get me started, right? So forth and so on. And the last one being experience. Obviously, guys, you guys are filling that gap right now. Education, mentorship, courses, YouTube channels, all that good stuff, podcast, all that good stuff is meant to help you push. And as you guys are aware, over at Military Cash Flow, we have podcasts, YouTube channel, all that good stuff to really start diving in. And I always have to give a plug to Bigger Pockets. They're renowned for what they do, but you must be constantly trying to improve yourself in that area. Another thing that can fill in that experience gap would be an attorney, right? Especially when it comes to something super creative like seller financing, subject twos, lease to owns, arbitrages, things of that nature. If you can find an attorney, a property manager, a contractor, or whatever that understands that space very well, you can simply go to them, hire them for their services as they walk you through deals. But you don't know what you need until you do that inventory analysis where you see where you are now in that resource triangle. Okay, so now what I want you guys to do is write down 3 ways you can fill your gaps, whatever they are. All right, now we're getting to the meat of this, guys. We've done all of this work, all of this deep reflection to really understand what our why is, right? Do all of that to tie it to a goal and understand what our needs are. Now we have to do the goal breakdown to understand exactly what that means for us. Okay. So now that we know what our why is, let's just use passive income for this example. We know that in order for us to quit our job, we need to have $60,000 a year in order to do that so we can spend more time with our family. Great. That's the goal. That's the smart goal, right? We need $60,000 by this date created through passive income streams. Now, once we understand what our overall goal is, we have to start breaking it down so we understand what does that even mean? $60,000, if that was provided by one door or if that was provided by 10 doors, it's all the same. But we need to know, we need to be realistic. Okay, how do we break this down so we know what we're chasing or what we're trying to achieve month over month, year over year, day over day? Okay, so the first thing we do is we take that 60,000 and we break it down by month. What do we need every month in passive income? In that case, divided by 12, it would be $5,000. Okay, great. We need $5,000 a month. Now, I have to ask this question, guys. If you made $5,000 a month in one door, or you made $5,000 a month in 10 doors, obviously, I'm assuming you guys would prefer the one door, right? Ultimately, do you really care which way it goes? Right? Probably not. Not with that small of a range. Now, if it was 50 doors versus one door and it was still the same amount, maybe the one door. But until we know exactly how much we need, and now we're going to do essentially, I like to call it a cash flow alternative, right? Either it's going to be leveraged or it's not, because now you're going to see what the difference is, what the impact is. Okay. Example here. Probably somewhere in California or New York, you could probably get $5,000 a month in rent for one single unit, right? But if it was owned free and clear, you get all $5,000. Boom. Passive income goal met. Done. Right? You don't need 100 doors like so many people say. So many people come, I want 50 doors, I want 100 doors. Nah, you don't need it. Now, if you're going to leverage every single home and you're going to have to require a down payment and things like that, well, now you have a mortgage that's going to cut into your cash flow. So now let's say for that same example there that you used, whatever, you getting $100 a door now, but you still want 5,000. Well, now you need 50 doors. If I did the math right, $100 a door, boom, 50, yes, 50 doors. That's kind of iffy for me. All right. So now you can see the difference, right? One door free and clear, or $100 a door, you need 50 of them to meet your goal. So now we have two different objectives. So now that we understand that, now the question is, okay, once I take that net cash flow, divide it, you figure out the total doors you need, how much money do I need to generate those? If I buy one free and clear, it might cost me 400,000. But if I put 20% down on every property at this price range, it's going to require me this much money. Right? So now we've broken this all the way down. We know exactly how many doors we need. We know which strategy we're going to go for, and we know how much money we need to generate in order to achieve those goals. That's passive. Now let's quickly look at active. It'll be the same concept, right? Let's say we want to create $100,000 so we can send our kid to college, free and clear, no debt required. Okay, great. Now what we have to figure out is, all right, if we do, let's say we're a realtor, how much commission are we going to make? If we're a wholesaler, what's our general wholesale assignment fee? If we're a flipper, what's our general flip profit? Okay. And then minus all the costs of the goods sold, right? Taxes, all that good stuff to identify, no lie, what is my net profit after all expenses considered, net profit per each average deal in my market. Now, again, let's just say our goal was that 100,000. We're going to take our net profit divided by that 100,000 to figure out how many deals I need to accomplish in order to meet my goal. All right. So that's a quick example of a passive goal versus an active goal, but that's your assignment. We have to break it down month, right? Cash flow alternatives. Identify how much money do we need? How many doors do we need? Or how many deals do we need to do to meet this goal that's ultimately tied to our why? All right, fair enough. Moving on to the next one. Okay, now we got the goals down. Very, very specifically, we know exactly how many deals we need to accomplish in order to achieve our goals. Now, that alone is already super powerful, right? Knowing that in order for us to achieve this goal that we have set forth, we have to do this in the market compared to everybody else who just flies by the seat of their pants shows that we are already thinking in the right direction, and we're probably already set up to achieve more success than we did previously. But we don't stop there, guys. We want to refine this for maximum clarity. So, in order to do that, we have to know our conversion metrics. What do I mean by that? A conversion is essentially once you start one thing, how often do you need to do that before you can move over to the next thing in the sequence? A great example would be, hey, if I made 100 cold calls, how many deals am I going to get from cold calling? Okay. That's the key there. So if you don't know what your current metrics are, that's going to be very common, especially if you're a newer investor, a newer agent, so forth and so on. That's fine. It's okay. Then all you need to do is ask, what is the market's conversion rate for a specific activity? And then use that as your starting point. Okay. But if you don't track your numbers, which is ultimately the key here, you'll never know where your mistakes are being made and how to refine the process. Again, guys, remember, this is a business. This is exactly what sales departments do in large corporations. People know their metrics. A true sales professional knows their metrics. And don't worry, we'll get into sales later on as well. But the key here is starting off tracking your metrics and using these to goal set. Okay. So the way we like to track metrics is a little bit more in depth than your traditional sales program or even real estate coaching program for most of the real estate brokers following this course right now. We like to break it down into several different categories because it allows us to identify where is the gap and what should we improve on. Okay. So, for example, when we're looking at contact attempts to contacts made, we just start off using a market norm of roughly about 50%. Okay. Now, what are those? A contact attempt is essentially saying, hey, I'm giving this guy a call, this girl a call. I'm trying to set up a conversation, but I can't get a hold of you. So I'm going to leave voicemail number, specific instructions essentially for them to contact me back. That's a contact attempt. A contact made is when that individual picks up or calls you back. And you're now able to get notes, right? You put them into your database, which we'll get into later on. You have to put them into your database, and then you have to have a scheduled follow up. No, if you don't have one of those three, it's not a contact made. Okay. Now the conversion rate for that, roughly about 50% in the market. Obviously, that changes the more comfortable you get. But we're able to see, okay, if you're reaching out to, let's just say your conversion rate is only 20%. Well, maybe it's the quality of the leads that you're attempting to reach out to, right? So maybe we need to look at, hey, did you purchase these off of maybe something like ListSource? Okay, what were your parameters within ListSource? Did you choose absentee owners? Did you choose right? But once we know, now we know where we can correct, continue to track, and make those changes until we get to the market average of 50 and ultimately up to that 70, 80, 90, right? And then we can focus on that metric to really improve the quality of everything that we do along the process. Okay. So contact attempts to contact made. Now, contacts made to appointment. An appointment is essentially your opportunity to do your sales pitch, your proposition. Very simple in the concept of a listing agent or a wholesaler to go directly to the owner and say, hey, look, I either want to purchase your house directly from you, or I want to list it, or I want to help you sell it, whatever the case is. That's the appointment. Okay. So if we can see from the contact made, you got all the notes in the follow up to the appointment. It could be a couple of different things, but you got to put good notes. It could be the fact that they don't want to sell. Cool. Can't do nothing about that. But if they say, yeah, I'm looking to sell, but I don't know, whatever. All right. Maybe it's your scripting. Maybe it's your scripting. Maybe you're not instilling confidence enough into the individual to trust you and give you that little bit of time. All right. Now, sometimes the appointment will happen right there over the damn phone. It might just happen right there. And that's fine. Now, from appointment to essentially an actual client or a listing or a contract, a deal essentially, we do like to do 30 to 1 for that. Now, why? Is because you'll see that typically, and this is across the norm for cold calling in general, the conversion rate is somewhere around 50 to 1, 100 to 3, something along those terms, right? Where we see a warm lead, and this is debatable depending on where it's at, could be anywhere from 12 to 1, 24 to 2, right? 20 to 1. It's somewhere in that close rate. What's the difference? A cold lead is somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't like you, doesn't trust you. You are just Jane Doe, John Doe to that individual. Never seen you before. Okay. That's a cold call. Hey, this is Mike over here with Five Pillars Realty Group. They're like, I don't know who you are. Okay. A warm lead is somebody who knows you, likes you, and trusts you. It'd be like my mom, right? It'd be like a friend I went to college with where we ended on good terms, right? That type of thing. That'd be a warm lead. So when we look at that 30 to 1, we got to think about this. We're going to get into our social media and all this other stuff. We're going to show you how to build a solid brand. But understand, if you got a solid brand, right? You have a solid, basically social media or internet track where people can come and search you. And all of a sudden they see, oh man, this person is legit. This person is credible. That's going to warm up some of these cold leads. Maybe not as much as, a 12 to 1, but we like to find a nice little middle ground for a starting point. We're going to call it a 30 to 1 conversion. Okay. Now, for some reason, it's taken us 30 appointments, 50 appointments, 60 appointments, and we're not converting them over into an actual client. Well, maybe that's a presentation issue. Maybe that's saying, okay, we did our scripting to get to the appointment, but now we're here. We are not selling enough value for this client to go with us. Great. Now we can focus on presentation. Okay. And then once we have that client, essentially that listing agreement, that wholesale thing under contract, then we have to move and actually find the next, for this example, the buyer or the other party who's going to help us sell it. And that's where we're going to check the contracts. Okay. And we'll get into that later. But understanding that these are your conversion metrics, now that you know your conversion metrics, we can backwards plan to say, all right, well, if it's going to take me a 2 to 1 ratio to get these clients over here. All right. How many appointments do I need to set up? Okay, well, cool. Well, if it's going to take me 30 contacts made to set up one appointment, okay, well, now I know I need to set up 10 appointments. Well, how many contacts made do I need to set up? Right? Or do I need to shoot for? Okay, great. Well, now I know it's a 50 to 1 conversion from the attempts to the contacts made. Well, let's do the math again. How many contact attempts do I need to set up? But you know where that number comes from? It comes from originally how many deals do you need to do this year? All right. So bear with me. We're going to walk through an example on the next slide. Now let's get into the numbers breakdown. All right. Now this is a lot of numbers flying around. So what I'm going to do, guys, obviously, you guys know that the slides are at the end of each one of the chapters, but also I'm going to put it in the description below so you guys can follow along. Now, using the market numbers that I use, it's important for you to find your own market numbers and really start to refine your conversion metrics as well. But using the numbers I use, what we do is we backwards plan. We know how many deals we need, and then we start to plug into play contacts attempts to contacts made, right? From those contacts made to appointments, and from appointments to the actual clients, which is a conversion rate of 2 to 1, 30 to 1, and 2 to 1. So simple math, it says, all right, you're going to times how many deals you need by 2, and then divided by, not divide, times by 2, times by 30, and then times by 2 again. Or if you want to just make it really simple, for those conversion metrics, you can just multiply by 120, right? So you'll take your deals that you need for the year and you would multiply it by 120, and that will give you the annual contact attempts you need. Okay. And then from there, we're just going to divide it by months, by weeks, and then ultimately to the days that you plan on working in your business. And then from there, you can actually create exactly how many contact attempts you need to reach every single day. And that's it, right? And then obviously, as you collect data, you're going to adjust it and continue to refine it using that same formula. So let's get into the actual example. All right. Now, what I'm going to use for this example would be something similar to a real estate commission breakdown. Okay. Let's say our active income goal, remember, our goal we've created a while back, right? And it's tied to our why. We now have an active income goal of $90,000. Okay, great. So now I have to figure out, hey, per deal, how much money am I set to make? How much money? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the average market sales price, right, by the average commission amount to determine how much can I make as an agent per deal in my market. Okay, so for this example, we're making $7,012.50 per deal on average. All right, great. Now, remember, we're subtracting all of the cost of goods sold. And this can be partnership fees, it can be referral fees, it can be all that, all taxes, right? If you have to buy marketing material for one specific, all of that good stuff. So after, for us as a broker, as a commission, we got a little firm split, and then we're going to take taxes out the way as well. I found that I will make only $3,927 for each sale. All right. So although I get 7,000 after I have to pay everybody, what am I left with? I'm left with 3,927. Okay. Now my goal is $90,000. So I'm going to take my goal of 90,000 and I'm going to divide it by my net income per deal, which is that 3,927. After I make that math, it comes out to 22.9 deals that I have to do this year to accomplish $90,000. Now, obviously, you can't do 0.9 of a deal. You can't do any fractions. So what do? We're going to round it up. We never round down. We'd much rather set the standard higher, right? And go pursue something higher to increase our odds of making these goals, right? So we always round up. So I know that I have to do 23 sales to make $90,000. Great. Now what do? 23 sales. Does that sound like a lot to you guys? If you guys had to do 23 wholesales this year, that sound like a lot, right? 23 flips this year, maybe sound like a lot. Well, remember, looking at something big is a lot. But just like how they say, how do you eat an elephant? How do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. We're not looking at the annual. Let's break it down. Let's divide it by 12. How many sales a month do I need to do? 23 sales divided by months, like 1.9. We don't do fractions. 2 sales a month. Wholesale, I got to do 2 wholesale deals a month in order to reach my goal. Now it's a little bit more reasonable, right? Now that I understand what my monthly goal is, 2 sales, we use the conversion metrics to determine, all right, well, how many calls do I need to make? All right. So we're starting from the back. We know that it's 23 for the year, and we're going from now clients to appointments, right? So from here, 23 deals, we know it's a conversion rate of 2 to 1. So we take 23 deals and we multiply it by 2 because we're going backwards now. All right, great. I need to have 46 appointments to meet my goal. Not too bad. Okay, great. Well, from appointments to contacts made, that's that 30 to 1 conversion. Okay, so we're going backwards. So we're now going to take 46 and we're going to multiply it by 30. Okay, that means that I need to have 1,380 contacts for me to reach my goal of 90,000. Remember, contacts, it's going to be notes. They're going to be put into the database and you're going to have a follow-up scheduled, right? I need to have 1,380 of those for the year in order for me to reach my goal. All right, now that I know how many contacts I need, how many contact attempts do I need? How many calls do I need to make? How many emails do I need to send out? How many letters do I need to do? How many texts? Right? We know it's a 2 to 1. So we take that 1,380, and we're going backwards. So we multiply by 2. It comes out to 2,760 people I need to reach out to this year for me to reach my goal. Now, how does that sound to you guys? 2,760 people. Is that a lot? Is that a little? Remember, one bite at a time. So now we break it down, okay? 2,760 for the year. Let's divide that by 12 and let's figure out how many people a month. All right. It's 230 people a month I need to reach out to. Okay. A little bit more reasonable. Let's break it down. What is that per week? 230. Let's just divide by 4. That gives me 58 people a week I need to reach out to. All right. Not bad. That's 58 people a week. But let's see. Hey, I plan on working 7 days a week. So let's divide that 58 by 7. I just need to reach out to 9 people a day. That's it. 9 contact attempts a day will allow me to reach my goal. How empowering is that? Can every one of you guys that's watching this, can you guys do 9 contact attempts a day? Right? That's it. You see how clarity is power? When I told you you had to reach out to 2,000 people, almost 3,000 people for the year, you're like, oh shit. But if I told you, hey, all you got to do is make time to reach out to 9, 10 people a day, 10 people a day, and you can make $90,000. That's the power of understanding exactly where your goal is, tying it back to your why. Now figuring out, hey, let's get clarity. That's my goal. Let's make it a SMART goal. How many deals do I need to actually do? Oh, I only need to do 23 for the year? Okay, what are my conversion metrics? How much effort is it going to take me to do 23 deals a year? 10 contact attempts a day? Great. How many hours a day is it going to require me to do 10 contact attempts? You got to decide. If you're brand new, it might take you 2 hours. But as you get comfortable, it may take you 30 minutes. And ultimately, we understand that contact attempts is a lead generation. We love to call lead generation income producing activity because it gets you more deals. Well, hell, if all you need to do is 10 attempts a day, what happened if you did 30 attempts a day? See where we're going with that, guys? It's so powerful when you have that clarity. So I know these numbers were a lot, but you have the slide deck, you have it built out underneath this video. So I want you to take your time, review this video, review this content here in this first chapter, and I want you to take your time and plan out your goals. Figure out exactly what your daily activity requirement is, because when we move into the next category, which is all about time management, in chapter 2, it's going to be extremely important to understand how much time is it going to take that you need to focus on lead generation in order to reach your goal. Because once you understand that, you can set all the parameters around your schedule. Now, expectation management is everything, okay? You know, when we're upset in life, it's because we have an expectation that something is going to happen and it doesn't happen, we get upset. That's just really what it is. So what do you expect from this course, or what should you expect? First off, this is a boot camp, all right? It's not easy. It's hard work. It's not for the faint of heart, all right? By the end of this, though, this isn't just a one size fits all type of thing. This is going to be a customized game plan fit for your specific needs. All right. You're going to need to do a lot of self reflection, deep reflection at that. Okay. And then take that information, compile it to this perfect little formula specifically for your strategy, your industry, your niche. Okay. This is not going to be easy. So don't think it is. But by the end of this, you will have a concrete, very clear game plan of how you need to move forward, not only for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but you'll also be able to reevaluate, reassess, and continue throughout several years of your investing journey. All right. How do we prioritize? Okay. So one very simple tool is called a priority matrix. Now, many of you may have seen this before. It's been made very popular through the Stephen Covey series of a lot of his books, but essentially it's 4 quadrants that's divided by urgent versus non-urgent and important versus non-important. So if it's urgent and important, it happens almost immediately, versus if it's not urgent and not important, we don't do it at all. We push it off to either somebody else, we task it out or whatever the case may be. Now that is a very good tool, base point for you to decide what's a priority in your life and not, okay? However, another concept which I commonly use and I commonly require my agents to use, we like to call it big rocks versus little rocks. Okay, so there's a beautiful video that demonstrates they have this mason jar, okay? And if they filled it in with sand, little pebbles, and all this stuff, it would fill up pretty quickly. And then once you try to put in nice little chunked rocks in there, there was no more room for that to fit. All right. So they dumped it all out and they started all over again. They got that same mason jar and they put the big chunked rocks in first. All right. And they were able to fit a whole bunch of them. Then they filled in the sand and the small pebbles, and they realized that they were able to get a lot of sand and a lot of big rocks in there. So it's the same concept when you're filling up your time, right? When you're filling up your mason jar of time on your calendar, the big rocks should go in first. What are big rocks? It's your family, religion, your gym or other health habits, right? Any obligations that you might have that you've already set out, date nights, friends' birthdays, and more importantly, or most importantly, some good old quality you time, some me time, right? If you're filling your calendar with those big rocks first, that's how you'll see these chunks of availability. My son's football game is on Saturday. Great. My niece's music recital is here. Great. I have date night Thursday. Great. It's all in the calendar first. Then you can start to see, all right, what are those little rocks? What are those little nagging things that potentially weren't adding any value to me? They're not on the schedule, right? So now you can cut them out completely, or you can find, all right, they're little rocks, but I enjoy them, right? So maybe I'll put them in there. Once you have your big rocks, few of your little rocks in there, now you can say, wait a minute, how much time do I actually have to dedicate to this, to real estate? So now we're going to pause and remember when we started looking at our resource triangle. We had time, money, and experience. But when we said originally we had time, we thought, okay, well, hey, I work 40 hours, but I'm going to put another 20 hours into this. Or let's say you're doing this full time and you're either a full-time real estate investor or a real estate broker. You say, I got 60 hours a week. But did you put your big rocks on the calendar yet before you analyze that, right? So now that your big rocks are in, you see, all right, well, I go to church for 2 hours every Sunday. All right, so okay, that's gone. My time, me time, my family time. Okay, well, every dinner I'm having with my family, that's an hour a night. Date nights, well, that's 4 hours on this day. Recitals, blah, 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 gym time, so forth and so on. Now that 60 hours quickly diminished. You maybe got 35 hours. And remember when we said, okay, well, we were going to dedicate for our 10 contacts a day, we were going to dedicate an hour, 2 hours. Well, do I have that? Do I now have that? What if I can't do an hour or 2 hours every single day? Do I just do 4 hours, 2 days out of the week, right? Because you still need to get to that weekly goal, that yearly goal of contact attempts. But until you have actually prioritized what comes first, big rocks, only then can you tell how much time do I have to spare, okay? As you start to do things, if they're not on the calendar, they don't exist. They do not exist. They are not a high enough priority for you to have placed it on the calendar, okay? If they're not on the calendar and you did not do it, that's just it. You're not lazy. There is no excuse. I didn't feel like doing it. Nope. It was not high enough on your priority matrix, period. It fell to the wayside. So now you can demolish that entire mind frame that, oh, it's an excuse. I got too busy. Bull. It's on the calendar. Plain and simple. Okay. Now, if you find something is hard to put on the calendar or hard to follow through once it is on the calendar, then you're lacking conviction. You don't really feel that it is going to be that imperative to your success or to your happiness, right? So now I'm going to challenge you to go back and revisit your why. At this point in time, let's just say, Hey, I got the gym on my calendar for 5 a.m. every morning, but you can't wait. You did it for 2 days and now it's been 2 weeks and you haven't went back. I challenge you to revisit your why. It's not a high enough priority for you. You're not lazy. You just don't care about physical fitness, period. Right? This goes back to the importance of having that why clearly defined in the beginning. Because when you start to lack conviction along the way, you can revisit it, hopefully get that flame sparked again, and understand that the consistency of all of your actions is what truly compounds to that ultimate success. Now that you have your big blocks, you must schedule 3 things. Absolute must. First one, lead generation. We talked about that. That is an income producing activity. That's what's putting the food on the table. Okay. If you're not bringing in new deals for potential wholesales, flips, things like that, or as a broker, new clients, things of that nature, you're not making money. Okay. Lead generation must be on your calendar. And the objective is simply just to hit that weekly contact attempt goal. It does not have to be an every single day. It can be 2 days, 3 days out of the week, as long as you hit that goal. And now that you've filled in your big rocks, you know how much time you have to dedicate towards that. The next thing, number 2, is networking. All right. Networking can not only be in person, right? It doesn't have to be a physical meet and greet, handshaking and all that. It can be social media posts, right? I want you to think of the concept of networking as introducing yourself into the world, into the public, into the industry, right? And also introducing others who are active. So, yes, most of us are going to do that in person, but it can absolutely be done on social media. Now, not everybody here likes social media. Believe me, it took me a while to get comfortable with it myself, but understand social media is absolutely essential in order to scale your projection, your brand, your marketing. It's absolutely essential. So what do? We make sure that we put it on the schedule. That way we're not just getting sucked down the rabbit hole of Facebook for 8 hours or TikTok or whatever the case is. We have purpose with it. We have it scheduled out for 30 minutes a day, a couple of days a week, one day a week, whatever the case may be. We go in with conscious effort, conscious directive, and we have it planned out. All right. And the last thing that you're going to have on the schedule, on the calendar, is deal analyzing. Now, I don't care who you are. Remember, this is real estate boot camp. You will be successful if you follow these measures. Okay. Deal analysis is going to be extremely important for wholesalers, flippers, BRRRR investors, buy and hold investors, real estate brokers. It really does not matter. If you're not analyzing deals, right, how do you know what the market demand is? So it's very simple to say, hey, if I'm a flipper or a wholesaler, I should be able to run my numbers really quickly. So I'm the first in line to speak with the owner, give them the best proposition so I can control the inventory and do my deal. As a real estate broker or an agent, you should be able to understand, hey, what's the average price per square foot for this subdivision here? If you know that, you know what you can list it for on the market. Great. I'm going into the listing appointment way ahead of the next guy. Why? Because I studied. That's what it's all about. Study. You need to study your specific strategy and your specific market. It's not good just to know industry norms. You need to know your market norms and how to manipulate them for the outcomes that you want, and more importantly, what the seller or what the client wants. All right, we prioritized. We got the 3 must-haves on the calendar now. Now, how do we optimize every event that we're doing? All right. So primarily, we talked about it briefly previously, that people get distracted very easily, right? If we don't know exactly what we're chasing after, if we don't know exactly what we're going after with maximum clarity, if somebody shows us something, we can get distracted. Back to our goals, for example, let's say you know now you need passive income. And now your best friend comes to you and they say, hey, I got this great flip opportunity. You want to join? Ah, maybe not. Maybe it's not necessarily aligned, right? Maybe it's not relevant to what it is that I'm chasing. So instead of allowing yourself to be distracted, you have to find one thing to focus on. Gary Keller wrote a great book called The One Thing. And in that book, he focuses on how ultimately, right, we have one overall objective or BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. For us, that will be our ultimate passive income goal or our ultimate active income goal. And then we backwards plan it and we find it to one thing, which we did: contact attempts, lead generation, right? So that's what you need to focus on. You focus on your one thing, your contact attempts, your deal analysis, those things of that nature. Then understand the 80-20 rule, all right? Where 20% of your efforts will yield 80% of your results. Mm. By understanding that concept, and it's been proven across the board, does not matter what the industry is. It doesn't matter if it's a physical thing or a tangible, intangible. The 80-20 rule has proven to be fairly accurate across the board. 20% of your results or 20% of your efforts yield 80% of your results. So the key is we need to figure out what is that 20%. What are we doing that's 20% that is bringing in 80% of our revenue? Okay. Only way we can do that is by tracking everything, tracking those metrics, tracking our marketing, right? Some people call it in the real estate brokerage industry, we'll call it a DAR, or a daily activity report, where we'll see exactly which websites we posted, how frequently we did, and all that other good stuff. By tracking that, we can say, oh, where'd this lead come from? We ask them, hey, how'd you hear about us? All of you have filled out a quick little survey somewhere saying, hey, how did you hear about us? Oh, from Facebook. Oh, from Instagram. Oh, from a billboard. Oh, from a news radio. Track it. Why? Because companies are tracking that. They're trying to figure out, hey, what 20%, right, is bringing in 80% of our business. And then guess what? You can focus on that 20% and expand that market. And guess what's going to happen there? You're going to find that 20% of that is producing 80% of the results, right? That this rule of thumb, that 80-20, over and over again has been proven to be accurate. So how can you optimize it is by identifying your 20% in everything you do, and everything that you do. Okay. Now, once we identified what we have, we got our calendar all set up, big rocks first, little rocks in there. We fit the lead generation, the income producing stuff in. We got it all. We write it down. It's there. Now we just need to identify our top 3 objectives for every single day. That's it. If I find these 3 things, I would have accomplished my 20% to yield me 80% of my results. How do we do that? Once everything is in your schedule, you should be reviewing your calendar every night before you go to bed for the next day to understand you got everything. It's all there. And right in the morning when you wake up, and you can finish your miracle morning, you can finish whatever asset or whatever your morning ritual is, review your calendar. From there, once you identify what is on your calendar, you've identified 1, 2, and 3, knock them out. Get those things done. 1, 2, and 3. At that point, you've done your 20%. Everything else, icing on the cake. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. All right. So we've prioritized, we've got the calendar right, we've scheduled the must-haves, right? Now we're optimizing it. We're focusing on the primary things I need to get done, that 20%, to get me the most bang for my buck. All right. So now we've prioritized and we've optimized. Now, how do we automate this thing? So again, I'm going to reiterate it one more time. If it is not on the calendar, it does not exist, period. So it has to be on the calendar. Now, the beautiful thing is when it's on the calendar, a digital calendar, like we said before, you can now set alarms. You can now set reminders. You can now sequence them to be repeat activities, right? So let's just say, for example, every Saturday for the next 8 weeks, your son is going to have a football game, or your niece will have a recital, whatever the case is. You can simply go into your calendar, set it all up once, and say, hey, remind me 2 hours prior to the event to leave, or that it's coming up, or 2 days prior to the event, and say, hey, repeat every week for only 8 weeks. Click done, bang. Now you've built out your calendar for 8 weeks, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever the case is. Okay. That's a beautiful thing about using an online digital calendar, which is why we're requiring you, and we highly suggest that you do that, guys, right? We want you to follow these steps step by step, because they've been proven. They work. That's one way to automate it. Now, the other ways to automate every single aspect of this journey, right? We're looking at 3 different things: lead gen, networking, and deal analysis as your must. How do we automate it, make it easier? We can use tools. All right. So for lead generation, and we'll get into building out the database, but a CRM, right? A client relation management software. it's going to be extremely or imperative that you use that because yeah, you're going to be not only be able to collect a whole bunch of data, you'll be able to categorize these clients, you'll be able to go ahead and have notes in there. But when you're ready to go ahead and start sending them on email campaigns, right? Drip campaigns that say, all right, and they'll have different categories, right? Hey, I've been trying to contact attempt and they're not responding to me. I'll put them on this automated follow up, which will reach out every single day, maybe via text, via email, via phone call. It can be all automated. Oh, great, right? Okay, now I'm working with them, but I can't find them a deal. How do I automate sending them deal flows, right? Or how do I now automate my marketing piece now that I have the deal and I need to push it out to clients, right? Lead gen. You could also use auto dialers. So let's say you have a list of sellers. Let's get that auto dialer going on there, pre-recorded voice note and everything else. It's going through, just making sure that somebody actually lives or actually that phone is actually connected to somebody. Because as you're aware, when you pull a lot of those lists, some of those numbers are either on the do not call registry or they're no longer active, so forth and so on. Some of these auto dialers will go straight to the voicemail, wouldn't even let the phone ring. They'll just go straight to the voicemail, leave a message, right? Or maybe they'll just send out automatic text campaigns, right? Another way you can, another tool is a person, maybe a virtual assistant, right? Somebody to make those calls for you, somebody to set up the back end, all that good stuff. All right. Now, networking, we talked about that. That can be in person or it can be social media, where there are an abundance of social media scheduling tools out there. Right. And we will get to a few when we look at our lead generation or prospecting one-on-one course, but you can absolutely find some time to only spend 1 hour a week and essentially generate 5 days worth of content, right? We've automated the population of that. And the last one is deal analysis. How do we automate that? Right? It's in the calendar for us to do it. And ultimately, you can't truly automate the whole system, but you can make it very easy. So what's a tool? A calculator, right? Build it all the way out, custom to your specific market, right? Now, obviously, Bigger Pockets is known for their great calculator, but a lot of times the question comes, well, how do I find ARV? Right? How do I find repair estimates and things like that? And we are going to have some bonus content for you to go and watch how do you just use open source stuff that's free like Zillow to determine ARV, right? Or comparable market value, depending on your strategy. Maybe it's not a burr or a flip. Maybe it's just a turnkey. Am I paying enough for it? Right? Or am I paying the right amount? Am I paying market value or am I overpaying? Will it meet the 1% rule? Things of that nature, right? We have to learn how to use tools to make this much easier for us and automate it as we move forward. Understand this, just like Darren Hardy mentioned in his book, The Compound Effect, which was I have to give all the credit to that book because it would just hit me at the right time in my journey that set me on the path that I'm on now. But understand that habits outperform motivation. It's the individual who is consistent for the longest that sees the compounded effects and ultimately the greater success. So the concept of the automation part is this should not be a thought. We should not have to feel the motivation to do it. It should be in the calendar. It should be scheduled. It should be organized to where it takes all of the thought out of it. And all we have to do is execute. All right, guys, now we're on chapter 3, and it's all about building the database, okay? The database is important, guys. The database is everything. Think about how many times you go out and you meet somebody, you get their contact information or whatever the case is, and then you don't even have a place to put it. You forget all about them. Now this potential person becomes a distant memory, right? But when you have a database, not only is it a place for you to compile all of that information, it's also a resource now that you can go into and send automated emails out to, right? Or potentially convert over to a whole new product, right? So let's just say we're doing real estate investing or for the agent aspect, right? We're always looking for buyers, we're looking for clients and things of that nature. Well, what happens when all of a sudden you decide to move into coaching, right? Or you start producing merchandise, anything like that. Once you have that database, you can now repurpose it over and over and over and over again, okay? The database is extremely important for you to be able to scale once you start talking to an individual or multiple individuals and collecting all of that information. This is how you can continuously keep in touch with them to convert them to a sale in the future. Now, remember when we were doing our goal setting, based on the example that you had to reach out to somewhere around 2,700 people for the year. Now, if you had to reach out to 2,700 people every single day or every single week by yourself, only using your phone, how successful do you think you would actually be at remaining consistent and not letting any of them fall through the cracks? Probably not that successful, right? So that's the importance of having a database. So, how do we do that, right? First off, you have to choose a platform. If you want to stay very grassroots, very minimal, you can be cost effective, and you can just simply use something like an Excel spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet, something of that nature. What you'll start to see though is that although you can compile the information, you can set up nice formulas and it's nice and pretty, you can make it as pretty as you want. You see that the use and the flexibility becomes very limited. All right. They don't have things like email campaigns, automated text messages, so forth and so on when you're using just the Microsoft Excel or Google spreadsheet. Well, now we can upgrade it a little bit and go into something like a CRM, the client relationship management software. And there's a whole variety of these, right? Lions Desk, KV Core, KW Command, if you're with a firm. Airtable is considered to be a CRM. There are millions of them. But what you'll realize is with the CRM, what it'll allow you to do is not only input the information, it'll allow you to put in all the contact information, personal information, notes off of every call. It'll allow you to set up some of those automated email campaigns we're talking about. So it says, hey, all right, you're an investor. Great. I'm going to send out these specific emails to you, Mr. or Mrs. Investor. Oh, you're a buyer, right? You're a seller. You're potentially going to sell. Oh, you're another broker. You're an insurance provider. You're an attorney. Great. I have all of these different email campaigns designed for you, right? It allows you that flexibility to scale and never lose touch of your entire database. All right. Now, when you're working on your database, now that you've identified what platform you want to do, you actually have to use it. I cannot tell you how many agents, investors, you name it. They'll start off, they'll get this CRM, this beautiful database, and they'll say, yeah, we're going to put all the information in there. They go in there and they barely use it, barely even touch the capabilities of that platform. If you're not using it, you are literally letting all of those contacts go away. Now, remember when we were talking about converting metrics in the beginning, we looked at contact attempts to contact made. Sometimes those contact made, right? As many times as we try to reach out to, hey, we just want the appointment, man. Then we get that appointment. And a lot of times, you know why we don't win? Because they're not ready to buy or sell, right? If you're looking at a traditional home owner, somebody who buys and sells to live in their property, roughly about every 5 years, they move. So if you think about that, one client should, in theory, produce you 3 deals in 5 years. The first time they purchase, next time when they sell, and they're ready to repurchase. Regardless if you're representing it or you're sending out a referral, whatever the case is, that's 3 sources of income over 5 years. Well, I'll tell you what, if you weren't staying on top of their mind with the database and you let that slide, there goes your 3 deals, right? You'll be lucky to get just the one. Okay. So you must update them daily, your CRM, your database, as you are going out and doing lead generation. Okay. And all you have to do is follow the goal tracker that we gave you in the last resources. All right. Now we're on to the Prospecting 101. What is that? It's simply lead generation, right? Just a nice little fancy name for it. We're prospecting for more leads for potential clients, potential sales, things of that nature. Now, here we want to focus on creative approaches, right? We don't want to stick with only cold calls or the traditional list source, right? We're looking to find leads from multiple sources, as many different ways that we can. All right. One of the easiest ways is to reach a large audience through social media. That's it, social media. Social media is so powerful nowadays, guys. Think about everybody that you know. They have some sort of social media profile, regardless if they have a presence or not. It can be Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, and some of these things are probably expired now, but that goes to show you I don't keep up with all of them, but I know the power of social media. So you have to learn how to leverage your online presence, right? That could be through creating your own website. It could be through creating a podcast, a YouTube channel, being guests on podcast, being active on forums, right? Creating a blog, having your social media account truly show that you are a credible and knowledgeable individual in real estate. All right. Leveraging your online presence. The next one is finding your warm pools. If you remember in a previous, in chapter 1, we talked about the conversion rate typically, market norm or industry norm, if you will, would be 50 to 1 for cold and roughly about a 12 to 1, and some would argue a 20 to 1 if it's a warm lead, right? So let's find our warm pools, right? Where people know us, like us, trust us. That can be something like the gym. I go there often, right? I see the same faces, so forth and so on. It can be a PTA meeting, right? It can be church. It could be school. You understand what I'm saying? It's basically places that you go where people know you, like you, and trust you. You have to find those warm pools. And the next would be farming. What is that? Farming. And I don't mean go out there and grow corn. I mean, you essentially you're going to find a data farm, a farm that you want to focus and pour your energy and your marketing into. That could be something like a subdivision, or just what we talked about with the warm pools. It can be the school, it can be the gym, so forth and so on, right? And we'll talk about the difference between those. Now, obviously, you have to put this on your calendar. You're going to hear me say this so much, guys, and it's because I mean it. Open up your calendar. Find times for you to not only do the activity of lead generation, but find time to actually do the study part before, right? Where are your warm pools, right? Where are your data farms? Things of that nature, okay? Now, at the end of this chapter, we have an activity that you're going to be required to do about identifying your warm pools and reaching out to them. So I'll have another video specifically explaining that activity. All right. We're going to now talk about that prospecting 101 homework cheat sheet. All right. So go ahead and download it. It's obviously going to be in the link below, or it's going to be at the end of the chapter where you can go ahead and pull it open. And then I want you to follow along. All right. Now, on the left-hand side, as you're looking at it, it says warm pools 1 through 10. Okay. Now, this is your section, or this is your opportunity to write down all of your warm pools. And I want you to really take your time here. Any place that you frequent often, where people even recognize your face. Gym, school, PTA, bike club, running club, comedy club, bar. I don't care. Write them all down. Take your time. All right. Now, once you identify, and I really want you to sit back and think about 10 different places where people know you or at least recognize your face. Okay. Now I want you to write on the right-hand side, how many people do you think attend that same warm pool you do frequently? They're there often. If you've seen their face twice, they count. Obviously, some are going to have been there 20 times. Some may have only showed up once. But if you know that they show up pretty often or frequently or more than once, you're going to count them. And I want you to really take your time and write down the number of the people in that pool. Okay? Take your time here. What you're doing is you're identifying how many potential deals you have in your circle of influence right now. Okay? Now, I want you to stretch it. But after you get that number of people in the right column, you're going to go down to the next line where it says total people, and you're simply just going to add them up. Easy. Now, the next piece says divide by 30. And why is that? Right? Now, although we said the warm pool is going to be roughly 12 to 1, again, some will argue 20 to 1, we understand that all of these people don't really know you. They may see your face, but they don't really know you. So for the same reason that we went 50 to 1 was cold, 12 to 1 was warm, and we settled on 30 to 1 for the appointments, we're going to take the same approach here. Although these are warm pools, they should see your face. They should feel somewhat comfortable around you. They don't really know you. So we're going to make it a 30 to 1 conversion. So all you're going to do is take that total number of people and you're going to divide it by 30. Now, Remember when we sat back and we did all the math in the beginning to determine what your net profit is per deal, right? After you complete one deal, regardless of what it is, you should know how much you expect to make because that's how we set our actual goals. Well, now I want you to take that number that you divided by 30, that number there, and I want you to multiply it by the net number per deal. What that gives you is how much business you potentially could make right now within your circle of influence without doing anything. Just going out there, engaging with people that already know you, like you, and trust you, and just starting the conversation right now. All right. Do you see how powerful this exercise is? And I want you to take your time. I want you to pause. I want you to stop, rewind, whatever the case is, and take your time on this process because all lead generation is income producing, but we might as well tap into the people that know us now. All right. Now, at the bottom there, it says prioritize your pools. Now, you need to take your time to where you have 10 pools. I want you to decide which are going to be your top three. And in that sequence, that's how I want you to attack it. And I'm not saying attack like an aggressive, don't be too aggressive out there. What I'm saying is that's the order that you're going to reach out and start making those engagements. If you said that you have 20 people in that pool, you're going to get 20 people for your contact database. If you said you got 5, you're going to get 5. Okay. Now, just because you only have 3 doesn't mean you get rid of the other 7. What it means is as soon as you're done with number 1 and you got 20, you're bumping number 2 into that 1 position. And then you're backfilling that number 3 position until you get all the way through all 10. Okay. That's how I want you to walk through that prospecting homework assignment. Now, in addition to that, what else is a warm pool? There's one piece, there's one device that all of us have that is filled with a whole bunch of people that already know us, and a lot of them hopefully like us and trust us. The phone, okay? Guys, the phone is so underrated. If you have not went systematically through your entire phone and told everyone that you are now in real estate, you're doing yourself a disservice. Now, let's be realistic. So sit there and go through the phone one by one can be very time intensive. It might be worth it though. It will be worth it. But more importantly, when you look through the phone, not everybody in your phone, one is a person, some of them are businesses, got it. And not everybody probably ended on good terms, right? And that's fine. You might have some do not answers in your phone. Cool, we're not talking about them. But everybody else needs to know that you're in real estate. When they know you're in real estate, yeah, they may not be willing to buy, but guess what? They're going to tell their friend, oh, hey, you're looking for real estate? I got somebody, right? And so you're now using your sphere of influence to push out to their sphere of influence, and you get all this free marketing and lead generation. So we can do it the hard way. We can do it the hard way. We can sit there and go through each one by one, or we can simply export all of the contacts from our phone and put them where? The database. It all goes back to the database, guys. And if you have it upgraded and you're in a CRM, right, you're able to take that information, slap it in the CRM, quickly update them, and then put them on an email campaign and a scheduled follow-up system until you've turned them from a contact attempt to a contact made. You guys see how this is all intertwined? This is the importance of having systems. This is the importance of being sequential in your process. And once you have a prospect, we never let it go. We use the systems and the tools at our disposal, and we start to convert them over to leads. All right. So that's essentially the warm pool. Now we're going to get into social media. Now, the question always comes out, how do I leverage my online presence? How? Some people are, social media savvy, tech savvy, and a lot of us aren't, right? A lot of us don't really understand what the kids are doing and how to add all the filters, but we don't necessarily need to do all that. What's the whole purpose of social media, right? From a business standpoint, is to simply stay top of mind. That's it. All right. If you aren't the top 3 of any option that somebody's thinking of, you don't stand a chance, period. I don't care what it is. Somebody's going out to buy a car. They typically already know what type of car, and they typically know the three different models that they'd be willing to purchase, right? If somebody wants some food, they probably know the top three cravings that they might have, right? So if it's pizza, burgers, and wings, and you're Italian down here, you don't stand a chance, okay? So understanding that you have to stay top of mind. How do you stay top of mind? It's by constantly being out in front of individuals, providing value, and constantly showing your expertise within a certain niche, right? The intent is to make sure that you are a go-to source for information. That's it. That's it. Not saying that you have to be the end all be all, that you always have to be right. People need to know, hey, if I follow that individual and I reach out to them, they can connect me to the right answer. That's it. Okay. Bear with me. When they do that, they're going to reach out to you for all kinds of information. And guess what? All the realtors out there, all the real estate professionals, they may say, hey, just got a question. I actually live across the country. I don't live anywhere near you, but I'm just trying to I got questions about this property. What do I do? Now, because they came to you as a real estate professional, you can now send them off and get a referral. You can send them off to a real estate professional in their area. Boom. You just monetized somebody coming in and asking for information. Why? Because you created a brand that forced you to be top of mind. All right. That's the key here. So, how do we do it? So, first and foremost, all of your profiles across the board are essentially your resumes. That's what they are. So, you need to make sure that when people look at your profiles, they think real estate. All right. They think investing. They think smart. Now, I'm not saying cut out your personal life because your personal life is your brand. Who you are is who you are. Absolutely have your dog, have your family, have all that good stuff, right? Have a little mix, partying up, whatever. Not too crazy on the partying, right? You need to be professional, especially if people are going to be offering you money to invest, right? So you want to be professional, but have a little fun, but then show that, hey, look, I know how to play sports. I, play instruments. Great, great, great. Boom, real estate, real estate, real estate, real estate. You get me? So on Facebook, the way you can look at it is make sure that all your information is filled out. You got a good to go bio and all that good stuff. And then as you scroll through, there should never be about 5 photos without another picture or another post pertaining to real estate or real estate investing. Okay. LinkedIn, that's a business resume for all intents and purposes. That's what it is. Fill it out. Put everything in there. Take your time, right? Volunteer work, fill it in, right? Underneath your skills and badges, if you got any investment experience, put it in. Put all that information there, right? IG, make sure your bio's filled out. Make sure your name has real estate in it. Your bio has real estate in it. Make sure you're hashtagging real estate throughout your posts and things like that, right? And then obviously other platforms like Bigger Pockets is just that, right? It's a place for real estate investors. But if your profile isn't filled out, you don't got a picture, you don't got investments put in there, you don't contribute to the forums, they're going to look at you as if you're non-existent, like you're not credible. So everything you do needs to always establish credibility. Now, I love asking this question because there's so many different responses to this. Now, think about this. There's a ton of investors, real estate agents, all this good stuff that start off and the first thing they do is go out and get business cards. Now, I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with that, but then they get the business cards and they just start putting it on cars or going to the flea market or to the grocery store and they start handing out business cards and flyers. So I want you to think about that. Somebody who is a real estate entrepreneur is going to the grocery store to generate leads. Think about it. All right. Going to the grocery store, typically the client, the person in the grocery store, is looking for what? Groceries, not real estate. Now, although you can push it out there, right? You can say you met 100 people in the grocery store. What do you think your conversion rate truly will be with those 100 people in the grocery store? It's going to be very, very minimal. Why? Because they're not even looking for real estate. So the phrase I like to say is if you're going to go fishing, Go where the fish are. All right. So when we're looking for real estate investors, entrepreneurs, buyers, sellers, let's go to those areas. And we're going to do that on social media. Okay. So in Facebook, what can you do? You can join groups. You can join as many groups as you want. And believe me, there's a bunch of them, right? All kinds of local marketplace groups, local investor groups, local meetup groups, and obviously militarycashflow.com, they have a group, right, on Facebook, Military Cash Flow Facebook group. Okay. Join these groups where people are talking about real estate. Why? You can connect with more wholesalers. You can connect with cash buyers all day, every day, right? And now you've just leveraged a large part of your lead generation. If you have the buyers over here, but you don't have the deals, let's go find the wholesalers. They're right there, right? Let's say you got the deal. There's a wholesaler, brand new wholesaler, get you the cash buyers. They're right there. Beautiful thing. All right. Let's talk LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a very similar concept. Okay. You can start to follow certain groups. You can join certain groups. You can, participate and show interest within certain categories. Okay. Now I love LinkedIn. Why? Because LinkedIn is primarily a more professional, if you will, platform. So typically people are on LinkedIn. They have jobs, maybe some discretionary income, maybe a little bit of experience with finances, a little bit. Maybe they're a little bit more lendable, so forth and so on. So now you're talking to a higher quality of a potential cash buyer or private lender when you're on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. Okay. IG. Now, IG doesn't necessarily have groups, but they have this beautiful thing called hashtags. Okay. And if you become really proficient in hashtags, then essentially when people start to search for the topic, let's just say, for example, real estate, and you have real estate in your name, you have real estate in your bio, you have real estate in your hashtags on your post, you have the word real estate populate in some of your posts, you're going to slowly and organically start to get higher and higher on the algorithm. So when people search real estate, they search you, right? So that's your way of being in the right place where the fish are, is by using it properly. And then obviously with bigger pockets, everybody's in real estate, right? So that's almost like a no brainer. If you're trying to get into real estate investing, you absolutely need to be on bigger pockets. Now be careful, because there are community guidelines that do not allow you to go out and start soliciting and trying to sell and blah 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 blah. So be careful with that, but you should absolutely be a part of it. All right. Now once you got all of that covered, let's just say you didn't find a group for whatever reason, which is nonsense. You could also create your own group. You can absolutely create your own group, right? And then have a specific niche within that so you can target to a different audience. It's all about becoming top of mind, creating content for others to follow. All right, now that you've done that, you've updated your bios. They're all pretty much uniform in the fact that if somebody were to reach out to you on any one of those, they know that you're active in real estate and they feel confident about that. Great, you've done that. Now it's, how do you stay active? How do you stay consistent within those forums, those websites, those programs, right? So we play off the algorithm not only of the system itself, of the platform, but of the human psyche. And we got to love this here. Okay. So straight up stories, the things that disappear after 24 hours. If you really want to get out there and get known and really start to build that brand recognition, stories is a great way to boost engagement. Okay. So how many times a day do you really need a story, and what do they need to be about? A story you need to do about 5 to 10 times a day. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's not that bad. All right. So if you think about it, one little story, one little snippet is roughly about 15 seconds long. Okay. So if you were sitting there talking and just chit chatting and you reached 1 minute, you'd have 4 stories, right? So you do one little minute of a quick chat and then turn around and take a picture of something. Boom, you got 5 stories. Your 5 are done for the day. It's not that bad. Now, people hear 5 to 10 stories. They're like, I don't have that much to talk about. That's also bullcrap. Let's think about something here. In order to buy a house, some of you may not have bought a house yet. Some of you have. How many steps are there in buying a house, right? So first you got to get pre-approved, right? Then you got to find the team or whatever. Then you got to find the house. Okay, great. Then you got to put in an offer. Then you got to negotiate the offer. And then you got to once you're under contract, you got to order the inspections. Then you got to negotiate repairs, right? And I can keep going. But you see right there, that's already 8 different topics. Okay, great. Now let's go all the way back to the beginning. The first step says, get pre-approved. Well, how many steps are there to be pre-approved? Okay. Well, you got to find a lender. Okay. Now you got to provide all your tax reports. Now you can provide your W-2, right? Okay, great. So we did that. All right. Now, how many people are involved in a real estate transaction? Well, you got the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the buyer, the seller, the attorney, the appraiser, the inspector, you get my point, right? Right there in a matter of just a few seconds, we found over 25 different topics to talk about. So all you got to do is a little bit of those, and you can throw it in there for the stories. Also, stories, they don't have to have much substance. All right, bear with me. They don't have to have much substance. They can simply be a picture of food, breakfast. They could be a picture of you jogging. They could be a picture of you at the gym, right? What it's doing is it's creating a track record of you being active in the community. Think about this. None of you guys ever follow somebody on social media and get really hype if they only post once every month. Never. You guys are following the ones that are constantly posting new content. You're liking it, you're sharing it, you're doing all that good stuff because they're constantly entertaining you. That's the purpose of a story. Get that engagement. Get people to look at you. You don't have to be the funniest. You have to be the most consistent. Every time, guys, every time. All right, great. So we have the 5 to 10 times a day on the stories, the thing that disappear. Now let's talk about the posts. The posts are the ones that stick to your profile no matter what for life. These are the good ones. You want these about 3 to 5 times a week. Not that bad. Not that bad. Okay. But when you do these, the question is, how do we really leverage the value that we get out of them? So it's a formula. All right. It's topic, value, and call to action. That's it. That's the formula. Let's give you an example. Let's say you're walking through a property that you were flipping. You address the topic. Hey guys, this is one of my flip properties here. Now we provide value to the audience. I saved $5,000 by purchasing this type of flooring from Home Depot. All right, that's value. A call to action can be many different things. A call to action for this example would be, if you guys are looking to save money on your current flip, use this product code at Home Depot, and save . Okay, that's a call to action. A call to action could also be hit the like button. It could also be share this video. It could also be call me if you're ready to get started in real estate investing. Lead gen opportunity right there, right? But beyond all of that, the call of action, the topic, the value, why is that the formula? Well, it's because we're hitting all the necessary steps to start to convert our audience over. So the topic, obviously that, right? We want to make sure that people know what is coming up. In the military, we like to call it bottom line up front bluff. Put the topic out there and then explain it. So people know immediately, do I need to listen or not? All right, topic. We're talking about this house. Great. Value. Why do we give value? Well, there's 2 reasons. One is called the law of reciprocity. If I do something nice for you, you're going to feel a little bit more inclined to do something nice for me, right? It's within our nature. Okay, great. So now that you're doing law of reciprocity, you're going to feel the need to kind of help me out. Okay, great. Now we move into the call to action, which is the second part of it. If you already feel the need to do something for me, or you feel more inclined, then now I'm just going to ask you for something small, like hit the like button. Well, the human psyche says, I like to have structure. I like to have guidance into the right next step. So you know what? He says, hit the like button. Cool. I'm going to hit it anyway. Bow. Now, when we get that like button, right, or we get that share, we're playing to the algorithm of the system. The system now says, uh-oh, more people like this type of content. They're engaged, they're sharing, they're commenting. You know what we're going to do? We're going to now push this content to a larger audience that is following hashtag real estate. A larger audience who is in similar groups like the local real estate investor groups, right? So now what you've just done is you've not only played on the psyche of the human, right? But you moved it into the algorithm that now is going to push your content to a larger audience to help you lead generate and become top of mind for more people. You see that, guys? Right? There's a science behind everything. Now we just need to know how to implement it. Now we got our stories, we got our posts. Now we talk about comments. What about if you put something on a post and somebody came in and comment, how do you comment? If you're on bigger pockets and you can't really post all the time or this and third, you just want to respond to comments, how do you comment? Well, guess what, guys? Same formula. You address the topic, which is the comment, add some sort of value, help them out, and then have a call to action. And depending on the platform and depending on the group, because obviously there's some restrictions within certain Facebook groups, your call to action may not necessarily be right there on the page, but the call to action could very well be, hey, I'm going to shoot you a private message and we'll talk more. Great. Go into the private message. Same thing. Address the topic, add value, call to action. What's the call to action? Give me your phone number and your email address so I can set you up with whatever. Now, what do you have? Now you have a contact attempt to a contact made that gets put into that database, and now you can set up the appointment. That's how you leverage online presence. That's how you maximize your social media to make sure that you're purposeful moving forward. Okay, so now we got this perfect plan for social media, right? We know how to go ahead and implement it. We know how to maximize it, make it super efficient. But now most of you are probably thinking, no, how the hell am I going to do 5 to 10 stories a day, 3 to 5 posts a week? And I don't even like social media. I don't even have a social media account yet. Well, first off, let's go ahead and start those accounts, all of them, right? And we can only focus on the 4 that I mentioned, but yeah, feel free to go for TikTok and use the same thing. Go for Snapchat and use the same thing, right? But nonetheless, now that you have these platforms filled out, we love to optimize everything, just like we did with the calendar and our time efficiency. We're going to streamline. And if you remember before, we talked about using those programs and those tools to help us. Well, guess what? Social media is no different. So we're going to streamline and we're going to leverage it. Now, what's the ultimate maximum form of leverage when it comes to social media? It's a social media manager. Okay. It's somebody who can essentially schedule your post, help you design the graphics for your Instagram post, your Twitter post, your Facebook post. They'll form it all out. They'll generate the content for you and they'll schedule it. Done and done. That is the maximum form of leverage. You don't even have to worry about it anymore because it's being done for you. Okay. Now, obviously, with that comes a little money. Okay. Now, we're going to link our content manager for Military Cash Flow, for Five Pillars Realty Group and Archimedes and all the other companies I have. Same guy. We'll link his information in so you can reach out to him. That'll be in the bonus content, though. That's down the road, but that's going to cost some money. Okay. A lot of times when we're bootstrapping these things, we don't want to spend any more money if we don't have to. So let's just use a program, maybe something that's free or very, very inexpensive. So a few different ones that I recommend would be something like Hootsuite, right? Or Planoly. And again, this is in the slide deck. So just go refer to the slide deck to see the actual spelling. And the last one is If This Then That, or IFTTT. Okay. Now let's talk about these for a little bit. When you think about creating their content, all right, and within these platforms, specifically Planoly and Hootsuite, you can create your post, right? The one that has to be 3 to 5 times a week. You can create the post with all the hashtags, all the plugs, the picture and everything. And then you can find time to actually schedule it throughout the week. So schedule it Monday, schedule it Wednesday at 5, Thursday at 9, so forth and so on. But Planoly, for example, only operates, or at least at the time of this recording, only operates for Instagram. Whereas Hootsuite, you have some other options, but you'd have to pay to get Instagram, Facebook, and so forth. Well, let's take a step back. If you don't know, Instagram and Facebook are owned by the same company, and you can set it up to every time you post on Instagram, it posts on Facebook. Okay. So now we know, hey, if I used Planoly and posted on Instagram, I've scheduled it all out. I've just posted on 2 platforms. Whew, I'm good. But the if this then that, that's the secret sauce. Because if this then that has a series of customizable programs where you could say, all right, well, if I post on Instagram, it automatically posts on LinkedIn or Twitter, so forth and so on. And there's several different other options. There's Pinterest, there's all different kind of options on if this and that. But now you can simply say, all right, well, if I post on Instagram and post on LinkedIn, and just use Planoly to plan out your week. That's it. You're done. Now, believe me, guys, there's a ton more programs out there. I'm just using these as an example because this is how I got started using these exact 3. Okay. There's more out there. You can do your research, you can find some. But the point is, let's find programs, let's streamline everything, and let's try to do something once, not 3, 4, 5 times, especially if it's the same thing. All right, we got the social media, we got the online presence all knocked out, right? We've set up our profiles, we've scheduled out our posts and our stories so we know that we're going to be consistent because consistency matters. Now, how do we do this? How do we prospect in person, right? How do we properly network? A lot of people think that, hey, I can just go travel to business events, real estate conferences, and the like, and I'm going to get everything I need from them. I'm going to learn so much and meet so many people, and it's going to be good, right? And that's true. You are going to meet a lot of unique people, but everything that we should be doing should be purposeful, right? We should have an intent, a very clear directive of what we want to accomplish out of everything we do, right? Remember that clarity is power. Cheshire cat, right? If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, right? So when we go to networks, it's the same thing. Before you go to any of these business events, real estate conferences, real estate local meetups, whatever it is, you need to know, what do you want to get out of it? Where is your gap in your business? Is it more listings, right? Maybe some deals. Maybe I'm missing deals. I'm a flipper and I just can't find deals right now. Maybe you're a wholesaler and you need cash buyers. You need them fast. Maybe you got pretty decent systems in place, but you don't have any money, right? You're running out of money and you want to scale. Maybe you need private money. Whatever it is, you have to identify those gaps. Okay. Now let's think about this. You know what gap it is, and you go to the conference, and let's say it's a decent turnout. Let's say there's 30 people there. Okay. And most of these conferences, you're going to have a presentation or a speaker. Great. Speaker talks for an hour, and then all of a sudden they say, all right, well, we only have an hour left, and then everybody has to disperse. And there's somewhere between 30 and 50 people. Realistically, ask yourself, can you speak to all 30 or 50 people and figure out everything that they do and if they fit your gap within an hour? Think about it. A conversation isn't just 30 seconds and go. Typically, it lasts 5 minutes. It moves on, right? Because it's a back and forth conversation, right? The answer is very unlikely. Okay. So now knowing that it's very unlikely that we're going to reach all 50, we should want to reach as many of them as possible. So what do? We put some science behind it, right? We go ahead and think of this and we articulate, all right, what's the best strategy for figuring out if they fit our goals or not? So how do we do that? Right off the gate, the number one thing you need to do, have them talk about themselves. Sounds simple, right? But it really is. Okay. When you go up and you meet somebody and you do your introduction, boom, hi, my name is Mike Glaspie. What's yours? Blah, 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 blah. Great. Hey, man, pleasure to meet you. Tell me, what is it that you do in real estate? What brought you here? And let them talk. Now, why? Why do we let them talk first? Well, there's a few different things. A lot of times as a new investor or a new agent or a new whatever, we go into these environments and we feel like everybody around us is at this whole nother level of sophistication, and that we might feel dumb if we speak out of turn or speak incorrectly. Okay, great. I highly encourage you that you don't worry about that. It's okay to be transparent and saying that you're new, but even if you are worried about that, just let them talk about themselves, right? When they're doing that, you're now learning whatever technique that they want to talk about. Right? Crisis averted. You don't sound like you don't know what you're talking about right off the bat. That's one. Two is based off the concept of how to win friends and influence people. Okay. When people get to talk about themselves, that's what they love. People love to chat about themselves. It's, again, within our nature, right? Human nature. When they're doing that, this is giving you the opportunity to practice active listening. Okay. That's where you're making your eye contact. You're nodding with them. You're mirroring their body motions. You're mimicking some of the things that they're doing, right? You're smiling, right? You're engaging. When you practice active listening, people enjoy that more. It's a great negotiation technique, which we'll get into in another chapter, but people appreciate that more, okay? They become to know you, like you, and feel like they can trust you. What does that mean? They just went from a cold lead to a warm lead. That's what we want, okay? And then ultimately, the reason why at the end, after you're practicing all this other beautiful stuff that plays a big part in it, you get to quickly determine while they're talking if they fit your gap. Remember, you came to this event with a purpose. You're looking for something very specifically. Again, you're a flipper, you're looking for deals, you're talking to this person, and they're a flipper looking for deals. Doesn't fit your gap. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and cut this conversation off pretty quick. I'm going to find a way to wrap it up. That way I'm not talking for 7 minutes. I'm not saying be rude about it, but now I know, oh, you're a flipper too? Great, man. Well, look, man, I flip as well. Obviously, we're not really competition, but I'm not really sure if we can help each other out right now. I'd love to get your contact information though. And if there's any flips I run across that don't work for me, man, I'll definitely love to send them your way. What's your contact information? Right? Get it. You see how I was able to end that, right? That's just a quick example, but you can end it without feeling rude. You want to get their contact information because after you cut that off and you go to find the next person, you have their contact information. Where does that contact information go? You're damn right. The database, guys. It's seriously just a system. It's just a formula, right? Go in there, boom, have them talk. Active engagement. They like you. They're starting to enjoy it. They're starting to trust you. All right, great. Well, look, man, I honestly don't know if we can help each other right at the moment, but I'd love to get your information and I'll just follow up later on in the week. Grab their information. Cool. Move on to the next one and put that information in the database where you've already automated the follow up. And you have to follow up. If you do not follow up, they're going to forget you. So the next slide is going to be all about follow up. All right. We've made all these contacts. We got this information from networking. We've got it from even our online social media game, and we slapped them in the database, right? Now, putting them in the database is fine, but if we're not following up, they're literally just sitting there collecting dust. Okay. So we must find a way to do follow-ups. Now, there's different sequences and layers to follow-ups. When you first meet somebody and it's just your original contact attempt, trying to get more notes, right, to make them a contact made, that's going to be a different follow-up than once they are a contact made and you're trying to convert them to the appointment. That's going to be a different follow-up. All right, now we're at the appointments. We've done our presentation, but we couldn't sell them right away. Now we're trying to convert them into a client. That's going to be a different follow-up. Okay. So forth and so on. There's going to be different follow-ups and different strategies. What I want you to focus on is understanding that there is going to have to be what I like to call a campaign, right, of a follow-up. There is no one-time hit and that's my follow-up. No. We're constantly reaching out and doing follow-ups until we get them to the next phase of the sales cycle, okay? So the first initial follow-up, and all I really want you guys to focus on for the sake of this course, okay, and we'll do a whole sales cycle thing down the road and I'll upload it and you guys will get it for free in the future, right? But understand that with the first part, I want you to focus on just getting these contacts attempts to that appointment, because we'll be able to refine that appointment piece nice to where you can show and start to sell your value and the proposition of working with you. But when we first get that contact attempt, we need them to respond. Okay. So we put them on something called a 7 days of pain. Okay. And what does that mean? We're not beating the hell out of them. No. We're reaching out once a day, trying to just get them to respond to us, man. Just talk to me. I got a few questions for you. Okay. Now, when we talk about once a day or every day, it could be different mediums that we reach out on. Yep. Obviously, the first one could be a phone call. Very simple. Now, remember, a contact attempt, you have to leave very specific and clear instructions for them to reach back to you. So if you call and it just hangs up, there is no chance for you to leave a voicemail. That does not count as a contact attempt. If you left a voicemail, that counts. Okay, well, they didn't pick up. All right, cool. Well, hey, I'm going to send a text next. Boom, sent out with clear instructions. Great. That didn't work. Okay, I'm going to send an email next if I have their email. Okay, that didn't work. All right, I'm going to give you another call. Right? And it's scripted out in the way to where you're trying to provoke a response. Once they respond, so we can get them to a contact made. Now we just need to get them to the appointment. All right. So now you know me. I got notes on you. You know who I am. We've talked. I've harassed you for 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. Now we're here. Now we can move them to something like an 8x8, which means once a week for the next 8 weeks. We're going to continue to follow up. Hey, are you ready to sit down and have that appointment to talk about that potential listing, to talk about selling your house? Hey, no stress, no worries. I'll just be in touch next week, right? Once we get them to that appointment, then we can focus on our sales pitch and everything else. Now, understand with this follow-up thing, we don't expect you to do it personally by yourself with your phone. What do we want you to use? Systems, tools, something like a CRM, which is so powerful, right? That's the difference between an Excel spreadsheet or Google Docs is the CRM, when you can simply put that person's name in and assign them, click to a 7 days of pain, right? Oh, wait, we got a response. Great. Now I'm going to take that same person and assign them, clack, to an 8x8. And it's all doing it, sending those emails and those texts and everything else for you behind the scenes. That is how you maintain a strong follow-up game. All right, we covered a lot, but we're still on prospecting, right? So the next thing that we're going to cover is data farms or farming, right? And farming is essentially just collecting owner data for very specific criteria. You'll see there is a lot of different tools and resources out there to collect information without you ever doing any of the work, right? Things like list source will allow you to say, okay, well, I want this very specific zip code. And I want to make sure that the people that I'm reaching out to have owned a property for more than 10 years, right? And maybe by owning it more than 10 years, they might have substantial equity in the property and be consider or would consider selling it. Maybe I want this certain zip code and I'm only looking for absentee owners, meaning owners that live out of state or in a different state than the property that they own. That's a high likelihood that they're landlords and maybe they're tired of being landlords and they want to sell, right? One of the oldest methods of farming was the old school door knock. Okay. People would walk around, go from door to door, introduce themselves as a realtor or an investor, and simply say, hey, do you have any interest in selling your property? Very old school way. And now most of these places or most of these private homeowners might have beautiful signs in their yard that says no soliciting, leave me alone, right? Another way of farming could essentially collect all that information, however you need to do it, and then you'll send out basically a mailer or a postcard. Okay. Even when you send out these mailers and postcards, you can automate that if you wanted to. A very common practice with wholesalers and other people trying to generate off market leads will be first, they'll purchase a list from something like List Source, for example. Now that they have this beautiful data list, they'll export it into another program, something like Yellow Letters. Okay, and that's another program where they'll essentially create the letters, package them up, stamp them, and send them out for you, whatever message it is that you wanted on that yellow letter. Okay. By doing that, they basically leverage their time and say, hey, I found my farm. My farm is this zip code, these streets, these subdivisions. And I want to focus only on absentee owners. And here is my campaign, right? Because we just got done talking about campaigns, very specific to that farm. Now I'm going to leverage it out. I'm going to purchase that list. And then I'm just going to automate the letters being sent to them. Okay. That's how the farming concept can work. All right, now if you don't want to go out and actually purchase these lists that are pre-done for you, right? Then you can actually do the skip tracing yourself, which is where you go out and figure out who owns the property and how to contact them, whether it be their phone number, their email, or their new address, right? And so there's different websites for that as well. You can use LexisNexis, Realgy, Deal Machine, PropStream, all this other good stuff. Or you can do it the good old fashioned way and try to use something like People Finder, right? And go from there. Now, first off, the easiest way to find the owner is going to be something through the tax records. Okay. If it's an individual, then you can go to People Finder. Now, none of this is free. There is no free source that I'm aware of where you can just start pulling people's names. However, it's very inexpensive compared to some of the other alternatives. Okay. So now you go out, you find the person, you go to People Finder, right? Boom, you figure out whatever information they last had on record, and then you can go forward and try to reach out to them that way. You could also, let's say the owner of the property is an LLC. All right. Well, great. Now that you have the LLC name, you can simply go to the Secretary of State website for whatever state you're in. You can do a business search by name and then find either the registered agent or the owners. Sometimes the owners will be another LLC. Good on them for asset protection. And then the registered agent, it has to be a person. Now, the registered agent could be a member of the LLC, or it could very well just be an attorney that they hired. Okay. But nonetheless, it gives you a point of contact to reach out. It also typically have a PO box and things like that that you can reach out to as well. So all of these are different ways to do it. And the last and final easy way to do it is once you figure out who the owner is, just try to find them on Facebook or social media. because we have a profound presence now, right? With social media. Let's reach out. Let's see if we can find them that way. Now, ultimately, once we've utilized everything we can out of that farm and we can establish that contact, we have to worry about conversions, right? We've done the lead generation contact attempt. It's now at the point where we're ready for the contact made and we're trying to get to that appointment. And from that appointment to the sale, that's all about conversion, right? And the one thing that can help us with conversion is scripts, which we're going to touch on next.